Hey Mendix makers! Today I'm going to teach you how to make custom HoneyBee stamps using traditional printmaking techniques. First, assemble your materials. You're going to need an ink roller, also known as a brayer. You'll need a lino cutter with a sharp blade, a rubber or linoleum block, printmaking ink, a clean flat tray for rolling out your ink, pencil, charcoal, and a Sharpie, some nice paper to print on, an X-Acto knife and a ruler, and if you want, some wood for mounting your stamp for long use. I'm going to draw a bee. Not going to be too precious with it. I'm using a reference picture from the internet, but I'm making it something my own. But you don't have to be as persnickety as I'm being. You can also draw a very simple and cute bee, drawing an oval with some stripes and some wings and little antenna, and that'll be absolutely adorable as well, just as good to work with. Just gonna add some details to the wings and make sure it has a really nice silhouette. Alright, so that's my bee. I think it's good enough as a foundation for my stamp. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to correct it in the carving process. So then, now that I've done the hard part, I'm going to draw stamp 2, the honeycomb. And a honeycomb, as you know, is pretty much a hexagon. So I'm just going to freehand my hexagon here. You can measure yours out or trace it from an image. I like the hand-drawn look, so I'm going this way. I'm going to make sure to line up my corners to make sure they match. It's looking pretty good. Okay, so now it's time to transfer my stamp to the rubber. Keep in mind your rubber block should be a mirror image of how you want the final image to look on paper. So if you want it to look exactly like your drawing is going to end up, apply the charcoal to the front of your drawing. If you don't mind everything being reversed, it's easier to rub charcoal on the back of your paper. For this bee, it's symmetrical, so I don't really mind which way it goes. Place the paper with your drawing, charcoal side down, on the rubber. Use a pencil to trace the lines of your drawing. This will leave an imprint on the rubber that looks close to your actual drawing. If you look at the back of the paper, you can sort of see where the stylus has pressed the charcoal onto the rubber. Alright, I've got my bee, and now I'm going to do the exact same thing with my hexagon. This is going to be a lot easier. Now again, I'm freehanding it. You can use a ruler. I'm going to use a ruler to cut it out later, so I don't mind it being a bit wonkety at this stage. Alright, so I'm cutting out my hexagon. There, I'm pretty happy with that. It's about the right size. Alright, time for my bee. Now my drawing is looking a little hazy, so I think I'm going to reinforce it with some Sharpie. This is nice because it's going to make sure that the contrast is high enough that I can see where I need to carve and that nothing smudges. You're going to be cutting out the white parts of your stamp, so everything between the lines, everything but the lines. You have to leave the lines where they are. Everything that you leave is going to make a mark on your paper. So this for me is the best part, using the lino carver. It's very sharp, so be careful with it. You don't want to get cut. You're going to cut out all of the white bits, don't forget. I like to sort of make a plan. I tend to start with the outside. I'm going to just carve out to test. Remember, scoop down and up. And fingers out of the way. Don't cut yourself. It's so easy to slip. Happens to me all the time. I've learned the hard way to be careful. Okay, cutting the outside lines helps a lot. Make sure that everything's a lot cleaner, and it stops you from slicing accidentally right through your drawing. Do the important parts with a lot of care. If you want to test your drawing, you can rub over your drawing with a pencil, and then you'll see the contrast quite a bit more. As you can see, the white shows up a lot sharper here. This is a great moment to experiment with some mark making. You can add texture to your lines using smaller cuts, zigzag cuts. If you're not confident doing this on your actual drawing, you can test it out on a separate piece of rubber, go crazy, get to know your material, and apply what you've learned to your stamp. Remember, anything that you leave there is going to make a mark on your final stamp, so I'm just going to cut out the excess white area around my stamp with an X-Acto knife. One more test, this time with a Sharpie. I want to see if I need to tweak anything. I can sort of see what lines are going to be left over when I print. A few final cuts to make sure the silhouette's exactly how I want it to be. And then I'm done, it's ready. Alright, we've got our two stamps, it's time to start printing. Make sure everything's at hand, you've got your ink, you've got your plastic tray, you've got your paper. Make sure to lay down some craft paper or newsprint, anything to make sure your surface doesn't get covered in ink. This can get messy. Squeeze a little bit of yellow ink onto your tray, and you can use your brayer to roll the ink out, and make sure to use an up and down, left and right motion to make sure you have a thin layer of ink. Apply this ink to your hexagon, and we can start printing. Grab a piece of paper, line up your stamp, and press the back. You can press with your fingers, or you can use this tamper. I'm going to take advantage of this little honeycomb and really make a proper honeycomb by repeating my stamp on the same piece of paper a bunch of times. When you're done, put everything aside and leave it for 10 to 20 minutes to make sure everything's dry. You can also use a blow dryer to speed up the process, or just make yourself a cup of tea. Okay, our honeycombs are dry, and now it's time to stamp our bee. I'm going to use black ink for my bee, and try different compositions with my different honeycombs. Alright, that looks pretty good, I'm happy with it. I gotta let this dry, and then I have a piece of beautiful hand-printed art. Now this is printmaking, so do a whole bunch. Don't just use one piece of paper, use a bunch of pieces of paper. Experiment, do something cool. You can use this technique on different kinds of paper, or try textile ink and try it on fabric. You can make custom t-shirts or aprons, whatever you want. I like to make greeting cards with my stamps. But you can pretty much be creative. Okay, Mendix makers.